disarmed, and I don't think there's going to be a point of coming back from that. But that's such a broad.
Recording in progress.
Welcome, everyone, to Mondays with Michael. So good to be with you. A warm welcome to all. Haven't played that one in a while. That's an original called Prelude in C minor. And glad to play it for you today. It's an old friend from many years ago that I had written, but hadn't recorded it for the album. But I wanted to play it for you today. So warm welcome to everyone. So good to be with you. Yes, indeed. Happy 250th semi-sesquicentennial, everyone. We have a very special show next week, specifically on that subject. We're going to have a Happy Birthday America show next week. We have an amazing slate of guests, very wonderful folks who love the country and want to celebrate it together. It's just going to be, we're not really going to get into too many conflicts and things, but we just, when in diagnosing problems and things, we're really just going to be a celebration of our country. So it's going to be just an uplifting, positive time. So really encourage you to invite everybody you know to that show. We've got amazing guests. Including the last, in the last election cycle, the candidate for governor of Colorado here, and her amazing daughter, who's very articulate and been bringing a lot of daily news to folks here in Colorado. So anyway, please join us next week for our Happy Birthday America show. Welcome all. I'm Dr. Michael Gator. Whatever platform you're on, please introduce yourself, and we'd love to hear from you. Any questions you have, please just put those right into the Zoom chat, and that would be great. And so we're going to change things up a bit today, and do something a little bit of a different order than we had originally planned. But that's going to be great. We're going to start out with a health topic. But first, for folks who haven't been with us before, we're streaming to, I think, 9 different pages and platforms today. So I wanted to give you all a warm welcome. Dr. Michael Gator, your host. And this is our weekly live show for 2 subjects of natural health and health freedom. We've got some guest issues today, as we did a couple of weeks ago, but we will try to sort that out. But anyway, we typically talk about 2 subjects of natural health and health freedom. Today is going to be a natural health day. I wanted to share with you some important ideas about an increasingly serious problem, which is cancer prevention, which is really becoming increasingly important. So this is an offering of the Gate Institute. Our motto here is with the clinic is nature first, drugs last. And welcome to show number 322 for this June 29th of 2026. This is a wonderful time to get together and share some ideas that I think you'll find that'll be useful to each other, and including your ideas as well and things you want to share. So we have a new course coming up next week, a natural functional approach to fertility. With the genocide jab causing so much infertility in men and women and miscarriage, which is not great because we already have a pretty low birth rate per female. We're down to 1.56 in the US. And the replacement rate, just to maintain the population, is 2.1. So that's not super ideal. And this has been a long-standing issue, several factors, but it's a thing. And so we thought it'd be very useful and important to offer a course on how to improve fertility naturally. So that's what we're going to do. And our lead instructor here is an old friend, Dr. Mark Rhodes, one of the top hormone experts on earth. He's brilliant, and he's going to be sharing with us some important ideas, and I'll be contributing as well to the proceedings, having had about an 80% success rate, helping couples who are having trouble conceiving to do so. I was joking with a patient recently about how many women I've gotten pregnant. That's not really true, just one actually. But clinically, helping couples address their fertility issues very successfully has been a real joy. So this is a course on creating the future. Please recommend this to anybody you know who is looking to conceive, because we're also going to be covering how to have a healthy pregnancy as well, how to have an ideal, pregnancy for the mom and for the baby and all that good stuff. So please join us for a natural, functional approach to fertility. It starts in this week on Wednesday. Is the first. Yeah, starts on Wednesday, so just in a couple of days. And please use your coupon code MWM10, which is an ongoing thank you to listeners of the show. You get a discount on all of your courses here at the school. And then we are also continuing. We have 2 more classes of Decoding the Heart, Clinical Nutrition for Cardiovascular Vitality. So please join us for that. That's going really well. And it's a wonderful course, and it's really been just great for folks who want to improve their cardiovascular health. So we have Greg Mitchell teaching. He's a lead instructor in this course. I'll be teaching the last class, which is next week. So all the previous classes got recorded successfully, so you can join us at any time. And then coming up in just about 6 weeks, pretty exciting, is we have our 11th annual Colorado Practitioner Retreat and Intensive at a beautiful retreat center, an organic farm, and regenerative beef ranch. And it's going to be yet another fabulous 5 days together. So if you're a practitioner or know a practitioner, it's really a wonderful time. It's just an excellent time that we have in a beautiful setting, eating the best food ever, and it's just going to be great. As always, if you're on our Zoom page, our Zoom link, or our watch page at michaelgaeta.com/watch, we are taking your questions. That would mean me. I'll be taking your questions live today. So please don't be shy and jump in about that. But please join us for the last, if you haven't joined us yet, for the last 2 classes of our cardiovascular course, and tell everybody you know who has not yet had a child and is looking to do so, whether they're having fertility challenges or not. We're going to be talking about sort of hormone optimization for a healthy pregnancy will be included. And that starts this Wednesday with the Creating the Future Holistic Approach to Fertility. All right. And finally, if you haven't had a consult recently to do a functional medicine, natural functional medicine checkup, that's just a good idea. It's much better to prevent stuff than treat. It's better to prevent than treat, and way better to treat early than wait till something is bad. So that's and just it's great just to optimize your own health and well-being and your own personal health, approach. And so just schedule your initial evaluation or a follow-up call, or if you just have some questions about your health or somebody you know, if you're a practitioner or not, doesn't matter. Happy to help. I do recommend everybody do a checkup, a natural functional medicine checkup. It's a very specific way to do that we do here, at least once a year, to do a good lab review and see how you're doing and make sure what you're doing is aimed at where you want to go in terms of prevention, wellness, or addressing any specific health issue. So if you or anybody you know has not yet had a consult in the last year, just go to the website and go to clinic and then patients at the top. All right, there it is. So just a couple of announcements we start today. So we have a health topic that we're going to lead off today. And, it's a live show, so sometimes weird stuff happens. So we're having some guests. We may not have a guest today, so it may just be you and I. Or it may just be you and me. Let me correct myself there. And but that's okay. That gives us more time for your questions and sharing some useful ideas. So, what I wanted to talk about today is unfortunately become a bigger issue than it used to be. And this is because of the murder weapon, the genocide jab, the poison death shot, as Dr. Zev Zelenko referred to it as. And he was, obviously correct. And this has been a huge and ongoing and growing issue. And I'll give you some stats on that. And they're not great for folks who've had the genocide jab. The stats are not super awesome. So we're going to be looking at some of those stats and specifically what to do about that specifically. So we are going to be talking about cancer today and how this situation actually can be addressed. And I'll just give you, just to lead into this subject, wanted to give you a little bit on the genocide jab. Cancer has been an issue for decades and generally growing. Some estimates have it as the #1 cause of death worldwide, dethroning cardiovascular disease. I'm not sure if that's still true because the clot shot has been so devastating in terms of a heart attack and stroke. It's been kind of a thing. So thanks to the awesome Nick Hulsher, who I hope to have on the show before too long. I'll be reaching out to him. I'll give you this link. He's been publishing incredible amounts of things. Oh, thanks, Amy. Look forward to reading those stories. But this is yet another genomic integration and molecular dysregulation study published in the International Journal of Innovative Research in Medical Science. This is a paper published by Nick and Dr. McCullough, who's been on the show twice. And not good news. We have genetic alteration from the murder weapon. So, at least for some people, the murder weapon is changing their human genome, which is not great news. I'm going to give you this link in the chat here. And if you're on our watch page, we'll put that on there as well. And if you're on our watch page, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you and see who's there on the watch page. So michaelgaeta.com/watch, if that's where you are. Let us know. Just say hello. And I'll give you this link on that watch page as well. Here it is. Okay. Okay. So let's take a look at this paper. You'll see the link there. And this is not great. And this is why we're going to be talking about this a bit today. Genomic integration and molecular dysregulation in aggressive stage 4 bladder cancer following the murder weapon, the death shot, the population reduction injection, just to put a bunch of big words together. So this is a study that is just a single case study, but provides the first documented evidence of genomic integration of mRNA specific to the vaccine in a person, and showing also at least a temporal association, which is very common, between receiving the murder weapon, the genocide jab, and aggressive malignancy. And I've seen this firsthand. I buried a very healthy friend about 1.5 years ago who developed various, for, not an elderly person. This is 60s, but very, that's not that old, and very healthy. And she passed very quickly with a very unusual, aggressive strain of cancer. So this is one of the papers that is talking about that. It's a case study, which means it's, breaking ground on what might be happening more commonly than we think. So this is, pretty significant. And now it's documented that we have this increase in cancer, aggressive cancer in this patient's case, and that's that. So the other one that I wanted to share with you today, thank you, Nick. I'm sure some of you have seen this, but if not, it's pretty messed up, as they would say. And this is a major study on, actually, this is on sunscreen. That's right. This is the other thing I wanted to share today. This wasn't a COVID shot thing, but sunscreen, ironically, increases one's risk of cancer, like a lot. So invasive melanoma, 300% increase. Basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, increase there. It's pretty massive. So you can read about that study that just came out, and that is important. So what I would say, and I wanted to comment on this a bit today, related to sunscreen, the default is to avoid it unless you're going to have an amount of sun exposure that's way beyond what you're used to. So for me, typically, if I'm going to go to do a beach vacation once a year, I may just skip the sunscreen altogether. But really, it's going to be at most a few days a year. So now there might be modifying factors of pre-existing skin conditions, pre-existing cancers, history of cancers. That might be a modifier. But for the usual average person, very important to avoid sunscreen, but also avoid sunburn. I think those can coexist. And Dr. Rhodes is jumping in there. Thank you, Mark, with in his lab that he co-founded many years ago. They found hormones in sunscreen as well as in many other products. So sunscreen should definitely be the exception, not the rule. That's the main point. And you've got the link to that paper there. So that's pretty important. So also, the other thing is I wanted to talk just a little bit more about the cancer issue. And this was pretty insane. They also found more deaths from the genocide jab than in all U.S. wars, World War I and II and Vietnam combined. More people have been killed with using very low conservative numbers from the COVID vaccine. So, it appears, and again, I really don't know, but it appears that there's something in the way of the COVID shots being banned and completely removed from the market. Obviously, based on science, data, evidence, facts, statistics, there's plenty of evidence to do that. But apparently, I'm guessing Bobby Kennedy is being curtailed in that regard. And we know where he's at because he wrote a book about it. And the real Anthony Fauci had just enormous amounts of data on that situation. So unfortunately, something is in the way of getting these things banned. It's certainly not a lack of evidence, not a lack of data. And there's some moves to, I believe Anthony Fauci, the genocidal sociopath, has been subpoenaed, I believe, to because he lied which is perjury, that's a felony, before Congress over and over and over again. That's pretty significant. And so we'll see what happens there. We don't know what the deal is with that, but that is hopeful anyway. That that is a developing story. Stay tuned for that. So anyway, with that, we see lots of evidence of total carnage and just a general increase in cancer in many ways. I'll give you the statistics now. So let's look at the cancer subject in a little bit more detail, and so we can understand what this situation is and what we can do about it. There's practical things that we can do. That's our subject today that we're leading into of how to practically increase your cancer resistance. So that's an important subject I thought was worth doing today, given what's going on with that. And yeah, there's Dr. Rhodes talking about Cataplex F. Really important. Great point, Mark. Thank you. I was in Dominican Republic on vacation for 8 days in the middle of the summer at a beach resort. So it doesn't get much more sunny than that, coming from Colorado to, not massively far away from the equator for 8 days in the sun. And I kind of did a N equals 1 single case study experiment, which was me, on how I would do without sunscreen. And I wanted to see what would happen. It's certainly vastly more sun exposure than I typically get, but in the interest of exploration, I went 8 days being on the beach in DR for hours a day, and wanted to see what would happen if I just loaded up on Cataplex F tablets and some calcium lactate. And what happened was pretty awesome. I took typically 10 to 20 Cataplex F per day, and I'll explain what that was about. And vitamin F balances vitamin D related to calcium. Now, one of the causes of a sunburn is an increased production of vitamin D through the interaction of the skin and cholesterol and the liver and the kidneys, producing eventually active vitamin D, which is calcitriol, which you can measure on a blood test. 125 D is the calcitriol. You can check that. Should be, at least 40 is a good number on a blood test. And I took a bunch of this stuff. This is Cataplex F. Came out, I believe, in 1934. So this thing has been around for a very long time. 92 years or something like that. That's a long time. And it's a combination of, and this relates also to cancer resistance as well. There's the calcium lactate. But the net deal with this formula is it provides this fatty acid complex that helps move calcium, particularly when it's deficient, moves calcium out of the blood and into the tissues, into the cells. And we know that, well, I found that out firsthand a number of times, but also looking at a heart sound recorder when you're missing that second sound, S1, S2. If you don't have an S2 and you chew some vitamin F, your second sound comes back within a couple of minutes. Pretty remarkable. But anyway, I found out firsthand that even though I was making, epic amounts of vitamin D, being on the beach for hours every day near the equator for 8 days, no sunscreen and no sunburn, I had a great tan. And I loaded up on typically about 8 to 10 of these in the morning with today's sized calcium lactate, it would have been about 3 of today's size calcium lactate. They're bigger now, so there are fewer pills to swallow. Patients really like that. And I'll give you this link in the chat so you can see this formula. And it worked great. It worked really, really well. And as Dr. Rhodes, no sunburn in 20 years with F. And this fatty acid complex, again, balances vitamin D. Vitamin D helps to move calcium, raises blood calcium with its buddy parathormone from the parathyroid, which are 4 little nodules sitting on the back of your thyroid. And that raises blood calcium by liberating calcium from the tissues, especially the bones, and getting into the blood to raise blood calcium. That's what parathormone does with vitamin D. Vitamin F does the opposite with calcitonin, is it gets calcium out of the blood and into the cells. Now, a sunburn happens when and sunstroke, sun exhaustion happens, at least in major part, from the calcium getting locked up in the blood from extra D and not getting into the tissues, into the cells. And so that's a big problem, and we can prevent that and correct that by taking vitamin F. And if needed, and I typically did this preventatively, some calcium lactate, which came out in 1947. Actually, no, that's not true. The powder came out first. Actually, no, the powder did not come out first. I had that wrong. 1947. Yeah, that's when this came out. And I'll give you the link here as well. And so you can read about it and get some if you like. But these two are essential for the summer, wherever you are, unless you're in Alaska or something like that. Then it may not be as important. But if you're not in Alaska or in the Arctic Circle somewhere, this little pair is very effective, very helpful. And specifically, helps to prevent sunburn and sunstroke as well by keeping the calcium in your skin and in the cells and tissues in general, which is a good thing. So here is the cal lactate, which came out, let's see, this would be 13 years after Cataplex F, vitamin F. And this is very readily ionized, readily made bioavailable calcium. It doesn't take much stomach acid, and it's very helpful. So this is the tablet. 3 tablets is a typical dose, but sometimes you just need 1 or 2. And then if I was out in the sun, and you know how before you get a sunburn, you kind of feel your skin getting hot, I would take another 6 to 10 calcium lactate and another 2 or 3 of today's size calcium lactate, and within a few minutes, it would start to settle down. So, you know, in a given day, and I had to take more as the days went on because I was just getting cumulative sun. So I think the last day on the beach, I took about 25 Cataplex F, and in today's tablets, probably about, it's been about 6 to 12 calcium lactate tablets, which I had with me on the beach, and had a great tan with no sunscreen. So I was really happy about that. Anyway, this also relates to cancer resistance, and it can be very useful to make sure you take some calcium lactate and Cataplex F from time to time at least to optimize cancer resistance, which depends on readily absorbed, readily ionized calcium. So that's a very helpful thing. So that can help in a variety of ways. And I'm just going to see if I can quickly find, I just thought of it now, I see if I can find that video I record. It's on Facebook somewhere. but I recorded a video from the beach just before we left DR, our last moments on the beach, or near the beach, or maybe we had packed up already. I don't remember. This is some years ago. But I recorded a video explaining what happened. This is an amazing experience in that week. I'm just going to see if I can quickly find it. I probably, yeah, so let me see about that. If it's readily findable. Let's see. No, it looks like it's not popping up right away. So anyway, but anyway, that's basically what I said from the beach was, hey, just finished 8 days, pounded on calcium, Cataplex F, some calcium lactate, and I didn't use a drop of sunscreen and had no burn. Now, at other times, I've been on the beach and I wasn't as successful. I did need a little bit of sunscreen because I was getting burned. And that gets me to the last thing is if you do somehow get a sunburn, if you don't have F around, we have a great thing available, which is the best remedy on the planet easily for sunburn. There's nothing else that's even close. And I found this out the hard way. I didn't load up enough on vitamin F and calcium lactate, got a terrible sunburn on the Jersey Shore, New Jersey, South Jersey Shore, Wildwood Crest for our annual family reunion on my wife's, at the time, her side of the family. And I got a terrible sunburn. So I put everything, I went to the health store and just bought everything, aloe and all the different ointments and topicals. Nothing put a dent in it. It was just miserable. It was very red, very painful, not fun at all. So I, after a day of that, I was like, this isn't working. I went to Standard Process, found a local chiropractor who carried their products, called them up, and I said, hey, do you have USF ointment? Thankfully, they did, and I drove right over there and got this thing, USF ointment. I'll throw this on the screen. This is, and within seconds, after suffering for about 24 hours, very little sleep that night, trying everything, including vitamin F, which helped, I think, a bit, and calcium lactate, but I just didn't have enough to do the job to prevent or reverse the sunburn. And I really needed something topical. And every product that Whole Foods had failed. And finally got a hold of, thankfully, there was a chiropractor nearby. He says, I never run out of this stuff. I stock up for the summer because patients go through this stuff like all the time if they get a sunburn. So it's USF ointment. This stuff is astounding, absolutely amazing. And I'll give you the link in the chat. And wow, this saved the day. It saved the vacation. Definitely save that vacation, USF ointment. This is basically vitamin F in a gel form. And you put that right on, and it's made of lard, lanolin, flax oil, sunflower lecithin, beeswax, and wow, within seconds, I got relief. And here's the tip. If you get a sunburn, your skin is going to be very red and dry. And you put the USF on, and it's going to soak it up so fast because the body is starving. The skin is starving for this is the same fatty acid profile as your skin. Whatever your skin produces 3 fatty acids in a particular ratio. That's exactly what's in the USF ointment. It's exactly the same fatty acid profile as your skin. So for any dry skin or sunburn or stove burn, right? Keep it in the kitchen. If you get burned cooking, put this on, instant relief, instant help. So here's the thing. When you put on the USF ointment, if you have a sunburn, it's going to soak in within seconds, like a few seconds. And then you have to put on another layer, squish out some more, put it on, and it's going to keep soaking it up so that within seconds or a minute at most, the skin is going to get dry again to the touch. That means you're not done. And so keep putting the USF on as soon as the skin becomes dry until, and you may have to do it 3, 4, 5, 10 times until the skin is fully resaturated with the vitamin F. And until it doesn't soak in anymore. This is very important. I had a patient forgot that I told them that and just put it on once on a sunburn. She said, "Oh, it didn't work." It's like, "How many times did you put it on? Did you keep putting it on until the skin was no longer dry?" She said, "No, I just did it once." I said, "That's not going to do the job. It works every time, but you just have to put on enough." So you keep applying it until there's a moist, oily schmear, as we would say in New York on a bagel, until there's a light, oily film that remains on the burned skin. Only then are you done. And at that point, that all of the pain from the sunburn is going to be gone completely. It'll be 100% gone in almost every, I would say every instance, but anything is possible. But this is the best burn remedy in the world by far. And I put all the famous things, aloe, calendula, everything, homeopathics, whatever. I put on every topical agent. I spent dropped a bunch of coin at Whole Foods because I was in terrible pain. That was a rough day until I got a tube of this stuff. And I think I bought 2 or 3 tubes from the guy because I didn't know how much I would need. And thankfully, the chiropractor saved the day in South Jersey that day. And anyway, have USF ointment always nearby in the summer or when there's even a hint of a chance of a sunburn, or if you ever cook, you want to have this in the kitchen. For a stove burn, it's the best thing ever. And just in general for dry skin. It works beautifully. So please be sure to do that. All right, next, we are going to talk about cancer a bit. And this will be a new course we're going to be launching next year on herbal medicine alongside chemotherapy and radiation. But anytime I talk about cancer, I want to devote this little section to my first mentor, Brother Ronald Marcelin, who was a guidance counselor who saved my life from severe depression in high school. And was a dear friend, stayed in touch, stayed close friends for years after high school. And then he died of liver cancer he died from chemotherapy. He died much sooner than the liver cancer, I think, would have done him in. But anyway, so he was the first kind of person close to me in my adult life that I had lost and my first mentor. So it was a really difficult loss for me at that time. So blessings to Brother Ron. It been, let's see, 33 years ago that he passed away. Wow, amazing. Okay, so let's jump in to this subject. And yeah, let's get into this. Just going to do a little bit on cancer today and practical cancer resistance. So let's see, here it is. So cancer is a pretty substantial concern. It's a group of over 100 diseases where abnormal cells divide without control, can invade nearby tissues and spread to other parts of the body. So it has 3 characteristics of aggressive growth. So the tumor microenvironment tells the tumor to stop growing, and it's able to avoid and ignore those or stop dividing signals. It's also invasive into nearby tissues and can spread through the lymphatic system, usually, or the blood supply through to distal areas. And that's what differentiates a benign versus a malignant tumor. Benign tumors don't do any of those things. They're slow growing, they don't invade, they don't metastasize. That's how you know something is that. And also, as we say in our cancer course at cancercourse.com, cancer is hot. Say on thermography, cancer lights up very bright because cancer tumors vascularize themselves, create a new blood supply. We call that neoangiogenesis. And benign tumors are not hot, they're cold. And that's another differentiation. So cancer has a bunch of characteristics which you're going to need to get into. And cancer stem cells have to be addressed. This is one of the part of the chemo scam is they'll say, oh, you're responding to treatment, the tumor shrank. It's meaningless if you don't get to the stem cells. Now, when you surgically remove a tumor, you typically do get the cancer stem cells, and so the outcomes are much better with surgery when possible. It's not always possible. It wasn't possible for Ron. He had very advanced liver cancer. They couldn't, it was diagnosed when it was very advanced. They couldn't operate for some reason. This is a while ago. I don't remember why. But you've got to get to the stem cells, and this is why chemotherapy looks like it's working but doesn't make a difference in terms of outcomes. And certainly when you consider the detrimental effects on quality of life, it's pretty significant. So these are being called tumor initiating cells, stem cells in the cancer cell, in the cancer tumor, because they're able to produce all cell types found in a tumor. So you have to get rid of the stem cells. Now, thankfully, the best way to do that is with herbs. There are certain herbs that target cancer stem cells. Now, I'm not claiming that any of this treats cancer, prevents cancer, cures cancer, none of that. But we do have good evidence that, I take a lot of these herbs every day preventatively in general. But things like turmeric and green tea, these activate NRF2, the cytoprotective mechanism in the cell, among other things. But they also go and get the stem cells. Milk thistle, Artemisia annua, Chinese wormwood, resveratrol, ideally sourced from Japanese knotweed root, berberine, ideally sourced from philodendron bark, ginger, feverfew, broccoli sprouts with their sulforaphane, pomegranate. Oh, I got Chinese wormwood twice. It's so important. I put it in twice. And Asian ginseng. These all target the cancer stem cells. Chemotherapy, by the way, doesn't do that and may actually enhance cancer. And possibly, and we have some evidence on this, that chemotherapy may enhance cancer stem cells, leaving them intact while destroying non-stem cells. So they gain kind of a population dominance from the chemotherapy. So that is a thesis that is being considered seriously, and in many cases being considered a fact, that chemotherapy increases cancer survival because of this thing. Tumors that recur. Yeah, so here you go. Here's the quote from this paper in Cancer Biology. Tumors that recur after the chemotherapy often behave more aggressively, and it could be radiation as well, and can display increased resistance to further chemotherapy. Cancer stem cells frequently evade conservative therapy approaches. They become dormant. They develop resistance to the cell, to the drugs and radiation. It's kind of a mess. And that's why for solid mass tumors like carcinomas, which are epitheliomas, which is 80% of all cancer, and sarcomas, for example, which are connective tissue cancers, chemotherapy is for the most part, does a lot more harm than good. There's no evidence of significant benefit. And when you factor in the quality of life is destroyed, then, the net is negative, usually with chemotherapy, usually with most solid mass tumors. So let's look at some stats. This is very up to date. As of last year, the latest statistics available. When I started teaching cancer to practitioners as a subject, almost 20 years ago, the numbers were much smaller. The new cancer diagnoses were about 1.4 million a year. Now it's over 2 million a year. We have about the same number of cancer deaths. We have had some progress in conventional oncology with the advent of targeted therapies and immunotherapies, so that certain things have actually improved. One sec. All right, trying to get our guest to get our guest here. Anyway, so there has been an improvement. This number some years ago was about 650,000. So we're seeing an increase in cases. This has been made worse with the genocide jab, but we're seeing a slight decrease in deaths. And that's because of not chemotherapy, not radiation, but from immunotherapies and targeted therapies, which means drugs that narrowly target specific cancer cell types and are less toxic to other cells. So they're basically narrowly toxic to that exact type of cancer cell. So that's that. One of the reasons why the very effective cancer treatments are not widely used is this. This is 209 billion with a B, billion dollars a year. And that was back in 2020. It goes up every year, so it's somewhere north of that. And that's not good. Lifetime cancer risk for women. So a woman's lifetime risk of getting cancer is 39%. Men is 42%. Now, thankfully, like I said, this mortality statistic has improved from 1991 to 2002. And part of it is less people are smoking. Now it's down to about 18 to 22% of American adults smoke, down from 50 to 60%, not too many decades ago. And there's some earlier detection, so there's more screening, earlier detection. It's better to treat early. And this is, I think, a big one is the chemotherapy, but the chemo alternatives of immunotherapy and target therapies, which, by the way, is not always available for every cancer type and every specific cancer cell line, right? So you can have 10 women with breast cancer, and they have 10 different types of breast cancer. They all have breast cancer, but the cell type is different. And the targeted therapies particularly are very narrowly specific to certain cancer cell lines or types of cells. And so it's not always available. My recommendation to every cancer patient who comes in is they ask their oncologist if for their exact cancer, once it's been biopsied and you've got a pathology report, it's been typed and graded, ask the oncologist, hey, is immunotherapy or targeted therapies available for my type of cancer? And I tell you, several times the patient wasn't told that there was. They were just given the usual chemo radiation combo as a recommendation and not told that these newer, safer, more effective treatments, typically were available. Now, these are the stats from something I mentioned before. And the this is from the government's SEER data, which is the government database related to cancer. This is a surveillance system. And this is pretty messed up. Again, we've got so much data. And certainly what Bobby would like is to get rid of these genocide jabs, but something or someone is in the way, obviously. I don't know who. His running mate, Nicole Shanahan, suggests that it might be Susie Wiley. That would make sense since she was a pharma lobbyist. We don't know. I don't know anyway. Maybe one of you know why these injections haven't been banned with Bobby as HHS secretary and thousands of studies, including this one from the government's own database. So this is kind of messed up. Overall cancers in younger people, folks under 50, went up 6.4% from 2021 to 2023 after the murder weapon was introduced, the poison death shot. So you'll see here, we have a very gradual overall increase in certain cancers. For example, we have just a gentle increase in colorectal and appendix cancer. We have a decline overall in the incidence, slight decline in ovarian cancer, slight rise in rectal cancer, non-malignant brain and other nervous system cancer. And then you'll see this line here when the murder weapons were forced onto the population without any safety data. And the safety data they hid because it was terrible. And you see this big spike, this increase, right? Notice the ovarian cancer was on a slight decline and it went up again, right? And all the gentle increases became more aggressive increases. So if we look at the specifics, and again, this is an increase beyond the trends for 20 years, right? So you have 20-year trend that's pretty, stable, consistent, and then you have this massive increase, right? So it was beyond the normal. These are excess cases beyond what would have been expected. That's important. So we found 20% more brain tumors. That's a problem. 20% more colorectal cancer, 16% small intestine, 13% ovarian, which was in decline. I want to remind you of that. It was in decline for decades and now is up 13%. Stomach cancer, 7%, breast cancer, 4%. And then there was a separate study of folks with pancreatic cancer. And if they got boosters, so beyond the first shot, they got 2 or more, they were 72% more likely to die of pancreatic cancer. And their survival time was cut in half. Now, we talked about all this in our course from a wonderful lady, Pamela Richardson in Canada, and I taught as well. called COVID Vaccinosis. And then I taught another course on preventing COVID injection carnage. So since the shots came out in 2021, we have 138,000 excess cancer deaths just since the shot. And this is beyond what would be expected. That's important. It wasn't 138,000 deaths. It was 138,000 more deaths than would have been expected in those years. In those 3 years from 2021 to 2023. This is all government surveillance data on cancer. So that's significant. So, this is a big problem. So that's why I want to talk about this today, so that we could look at, okay, what can we do, right? It's good to face the facts, but the main thing is not how bad things are, how good things could be has been more important. And looking at the latest data, and this is just important to know, this isn't specific to COVID injections, but it's affected by it for sure. And here's the change. The notable trend up to date, incident rates in women up to 50 are now 82% higher than in men in the same age group. So younger female cancers, new cases have gone up a lot. In 2002, women had a 51% higher incidence. Now it's 82% or more, because it's another year or 6 months or so. So this is pretty significant. Now, I want to point out roughly a third of all cancer in men and women is mostly hormone driven. And I'd refer you to Dr. Rhodes' course, Natural Functional Approach to Hormone Health, in our school. What a great course on hormone balance. And there are hormone negative cancer, but the vast majority are hormone positive, especially breast cancer. But the prostate is loaded with estrogen receptors. And so we have estrogen positive and negative prostate cancer, as well as breast. Now, thankfully, even though they are, the survival rates from breast and prostate cancer, if you look over here, is much better than the incidence. The deadliest cancer by far is lung cancer, right? And this is why mortality has declined, in part because less people are smoking, which is good, 18 to 22% instead of 50 to 60% of American adults at its peak. Now, notice that more than half of the number of new cases is a death. So 21% of cancer deaths are lung cancer. That's a lot. Even though it's about 10% of cases, it's about 21% of deaths. So that is that. Just so you get the lay of the land here. So this is what I was talking about. This has been a renaissance, you could say, in oncology. About half of patients get radiation, about 2/3 of patients get chemo, but it's changing, that these numbers are starting to level off with the increase. Now we have 15% of patients getting immunotherapy. For example, the late President Jimmy Carter had inoperable brain cancer. And he was basically told that, he's basically sent home to die. They couldn't really treat him. And he basically had skin cancer that spread to his liver and brain. So he had metastatic skin cancer that went to his brain. And at age 90, he lived another 10 years. He died just a year and a half ago at the age of 100. And he didn't die of cancer. It was natural causes for being 100. And he was given weeks to live with this metastatic cancer in his liver, his brain, that started in his skin. And he had immunotherapy, and the cancer was gone in 2 months. And he was cancer-free 2 months later and lived another 10 years because of immunotherapy. Now, immunotherapy, most common type, are checkpoint inhibitors that basically disconnect the brake pedal, so you just have gas but not brake. And he did that. And it's very similar, actually, to what we do in natural medicine. Obviously, we're not using drugs. But we are amplifying, increasing, building, optimizing, supporting the body's own immune system. And so I was speaking one day to a school dad here. Our daughters are good friends. They met in school, 15 years ago in kindergarten. And he's an oncologist here in Colorado. He said he estimates that chemotherapy is going to go down to maybe 25% use and replaced by the safer, nothing's perfect, but it's compared to chemo, like anything is better, just about. The targeted therapies and the immunotherapies are already replacing. And so that in his cancer clinic, that's all he does. He's in a cancer treatment center. He said, we are down to already in our clinic, 25% chemo. And we're going hard on the immunotherapies and the targeted therapies instead when possible. So they're really aggressively minimizing chemotherapy. And he said, it'll take the rest of his field another 10, 15 years to catch up to what they're doing with minimizing chemo in favor of these. So again, 15% of patients now getting immunotherapy. That's what saved Jimmy Carter, gave him another 10 years. And 20% or so getting targeted therapies, which is pretty awesome. The hormone therapies, we have very good natural things that do similar things. I'm not saying nobody should do these things. I'm just saying that there are natural approaches to hormone balance that we cover in our course, natural functional approach to hormone health. And then we also have a female hormone health course with the functional medicine nurse, Pam, and very successful author, Pam Levitt. So anyway, that's the deal. Now, what I wanted to get to today was, given the murder weapon and all the issues with an increase in cancer, we need to know what we can do to minimize our cancer resistance. So I wanted to talk about some lifestyle things, right? So it's very helpful, just daily choices, lifestyle things. One thing is to, and this is what we were talking about earlier, is make sure you're getting enough sun exposure. So sun exposure is protective against cancer. Now, again, I'm not saying that anything I'm talking about treats, prevents, or cures cancer. I am saying that you can, in the lifestyle, optimize your cancer resistance. That's what we do in natural functional medicine, is we don't treat the cancer, we treat the patient to improve their own cancer resistance. That is our whole approach. Now, I refer you to Dr. Cedric Garland at University of California. He is in California School of Medicine and the Moores Cancer Center. They're a very, very prestigious cancer research place in California. And just to quote him, responsible routine sun exposure will save 10 lives from non-skin cancers for every 1 skin cancer death. Now, you have to lay in there the new research on the sunscreen increasing cancer a lot in some cases, up to 300%. But the idea is daily routine sun exposure helps to increase cancer resistance so that the person is less likely to develop cancer to begin with. And that's a good thing. You know, prevention, it's always better to prevent than treat. That is especially true with cancer. So there's number one is daily sun exposure. But again, short of getting a sunburn, avoid getting a sunburn. That's skin damage, which can be permanent. I went through that years ago, being outside kayaking for 4 hours without sunscreen when I wasn't used to that much on the South Shore of Long Island with my kayaking instructor, who was a world champion. Had an extended lesson and got terribly burned, and to this day still have the spots that appeared that day from the skin damage. So you do not want to get a sunburn. If you do, put USF on immediately and take a bunch of Cataplex F, calcium lactate. But daily sun exposure is important. Now, the big change that's happened culturally is we spend less time outside. We're getting less sun exposure in the lifestyle. So getting daily sun exposure, and I do recommend, you know, folks who are interested in cancer prevention, that they get as much as they can short of a sunburn, right? Get out of the sun if that skin is starting to feel pre-burn, like it's getting very hot, which is how it'll feel before that. So that's that. Number one, more sun. And what they also, another thing that's very easy to do is vitamin D. It's a little controversial. I get it. Some folks are not sold on the D idea, but I'll just share with you a very important paper. And this idea came to me from Joe Mercola, the osteopath, wrote about this, and quoting some of the research on the usefulness of D related to cancer. But then this paper came out a few years ago, and this is JAMA Oncology, so Journal of the American. This is one of the kind of halo journals. There are 5 or so halo journals in the medical field. JAMA is one of them, Journal of the American Medical Mafia Association. So they looked at, in this paper, 26,000 patients, and looking at actual supplementation with the preferred form of D, which is D3. D2 is basically useless. And to see what would happen with the incidence of advanced cancer in the overall cohort, meaning metastasis or death. And what do they find? They had less advanced metastatic or fatal cancer, and they had the strongest cancer risk reduction in folks who are not overweight. And They did not have a reduction in cancer with vitamin D in folks who were overweight or obese. These findings suggest that supplementing with D3 may reduce the risk of developing advanced cancer among adults without a current diagnosis of cancer. And it is apparent for those who have normal but not elevated BMI. I would say that there's no harm in if folks are overweight or obese from adding some D. So this was an RCT, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial of a pretty mellow dose of D3, 2,000 units. And they also added a very mellow dose of omega-3, a gram a day. So this is a multi-center U.S. trial. The men were at least 50 years old. The ladies were at least 55 years old. They had no cancer and no cardiovascular disease when they were enrolled in the study. And they looked at an average of 5.25 years of D. So that's not like a month. This is 5.3 years of D supplementation. So these were about half men and women. The average age was 67, which is the average age of diagnosis of cancer, by the way. Until recently, the COVID shot has reduced the average age of diagnosis because it's causing turbo and aggressive cancers in young people. And we know that. So they were, out of those 26,000 people, 1,600 diagnoses of metastatic or invasive cancer. So that's a lot of cancer. But there was a reduction in metastatic or fatal cancer with D compared to placebo. And so there was a 17% risk reduction, which is not astounding. We can do better with natural medicine and diet and lifestyle factors. But in the vitamin D arm, in folks who were not overweight, the incidence of metastatic or fatal cancer went down 38%. And how do I know that? Let me just give you, when you read these things, hazard ratio 0.83 means 17% less. Hazard ratio 0.62 means 38% less from one group to the other group. So one group had 38% less metastatic or fatal cancer in the D group who were not overweight. And so that was pretty incredible. Now, they said there was no reduction, but there was in the overweight or obese. So if we look at overweight, obese, BMI above 25, so 25 to 30, which is overweight but not obese, they actually did have an 11% reduced risk of advanced cancer. So that was something, right? It's not terribly far off of the group they said was effective. But they did have an 11% overweight but not obese. Now, somehow, the obese group had a 5% increase. 1 means the same. 105 means 5% more. And they did reach the 95% confidence interval, which is a p-value of 0.05 or better. So I don't understand why they didn't slice and dice overweight versus obese. Definite benefit with overweight. no benefit or even slight worsening with obese. But again, hard to say. I mean, 5% is not a whole ton. So what I recommend is check your 25-hydroxy-D. Aim for at least 40, preferably 50. And also check your calcitriol, your active 125D, and aim for at least 40 on that. And that would be a good thing. So that's that. And so just to put some formulas on this, this is very useful. In terms of formulas, vitamin D, so Cataplex D is, they're moving away from IUs, international units, which is always a good thing. International units are a mess because it's different for each vitamin. 1 IU of vitamin D is very different than 1 IU of vitamin A or E. So it's a mess. It's what we're used to, but thankfully the health world is moving away from IUs to micrograms, which is much better. So 20 micrograms is 800 units. Epoise, which is now stupidly called Catalin with iron. They made a bunch of disastrous name changes. This one wasn't too bad, honestly. Catalin with iron, fine. This has 300 units per capsule. Cod liver oil, 31 units per capsule, naturally occurring. And then Catalin is 104 units per tablet. That's sort of the basic multivitamin. So this is another simple thing to do, and your sun exposure will help you get there to that optimized vitamin D. So that's another simple lifestyle thing to do. Now, the next thing I want to talk about with cancer resistance, which is our subject, again, preventing cancer by increasing cancer resistance, which, by the way, also improves outcomes in a person who has been diagnosed. Oh yeah, one other thing before I get to that is the area of zinc. One of the simplest, cheapest, most effective things you can do is to test and optimize your zinc status. I'm so into zinc, I wrote a page, which is like a short course in zinc for our website. And I'll give that to you now. And if you read this page and kind of absorb it a bit, you'll know more about zinc than most people. And I would dare to say many practitioners. But it's a very useful, simple, but powerful short course in zinc optimization. So let me get that to you here. It is michaelgaeta.com/zinc. And I'm going to put that on the screen for you. And let's go through it. Very simple, very effective. And this whole page was inspired by, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this is Mark Barnett, MD. Great guy. What a sweet guy. What a wonderful family. Oh, just love them to pieces, as my mom used to say. They're wonderful folks. And let me see if I can rustle up some info on him. Yes, here it is. Yeah. Let me give you a website. Yep, here it is. Yep. So he's part of a network of oncologists. He's here in Colorado. There's the website. There's the name, and you'll find him there. He's great. I've sent many patients to him. They've just been delighted. So anyway, this is the inspiration for this web page was this paper that came out in Biological Trace Element Research a few years ago, and I was just blown away. So I spent an hour going through this entire paper line by line, which I recorded as a video, which you can see. But zinc testing and optimization will improve cancer resistance. This paper concluded, this is a massive literature review, is that zinc status has the potential to prevent cancer, diagnose cancer, prognose cancer outcomes, like how's it going to go, and treat cancer. That's what they found from looking at, this is the first of its kind that I'm aware of, literature review on zinc and cancer to this level of depth as a review paper. So let me give this to you and just look at it. This is the zinc page, as I call it. And here's the paper with the link at michaelgator.com/zinc. And then this is the video. I went through this whole paper line by line. Oh, wow, this is pre-beard. Look at that. Wow. This is just before I started growing my beard. Wow, look at that. Oh, it's a different guy there. Wow. So yeah, I started growing the beard January of 2024. And this was 3 months earlier. Wow. Okay. There you go. So yeah, it's a pretty detailed video, which you'll see. And there's the full text link to the research paper. And then I go through stuff you should be doing, which is an annual hair analysis and a home taste test. The blood test I use less frequently because it's usually not low, which makes sense. Even when the tissue levels measured in the hair are low, the blood, and this is just what happens in the blood, the body prioritizes the blood over the tissues. So the deficiencies will show up in the cells long before it shows up in the blood. The body sacrifices the tissues and organs to keep blood levels in a very narrow range. And so things will show up in the hair long before they show up in the blood. Then I go through zinc replenishment. Diet, here's the foods. Here's the mineral supplementation. Here's all the things. And that is the basic idea. Then past that, and zinc status, very related to cancer, very related to cardiovascular health, very related to autoimmune disease, because zinc is a big part of what we call immunological tolerance, which breaks down when autoimmune disease develops. So then you get a little short bit on zinc, like what does it do? What are symptoms of zinc deficiency? Obviously, all of these symptoms can be caused by other things that have nothing to do with zinc, but these are zinc symptoms. And then I gave you my 5 favorite zinc papers. Very helpful. And I've looked at, I don't know, hundreds of zinc studies at this point. These are 5 of my favorites, and they'll be very helpful to you. So that's the zinc page. It's a wonderful way, simple way to optimize your cancer resistance very simply, very inexpensively. It's inexpensive to test. It's inexpensive to correct. And that's just a very helpful thing to do. Other things, we got it, if we're talking about cancer prevention, well, we got to talk about one of my favorite herbs, which is, and I'm going to put this on the screen for you because I'm writing a book. My first book is on this herb. And I finished the first 2 chapters, actually just about done with the first 3 chapters, but the first 2 chapters are available for free with the introduction. Just click on that QR code and you can read the introduction and first 2 chapters of this upcoming book. So this is a good thing. And this is one of the best in the world, easily, cancer resistance herbs. And it's remarkable. It has a very unique structure. It has a thing in the leaf, in the molecules of the compounds in the leaf contain something that I believe does not exist, to my knowledge, anywhere else in the herbal world of like 50,000 herbs in the world, at least. There's only one that has what's called an endoperoxide bridge. When the body breaks this endoperoxide bridge, when it just naturally digests and metabolizes the plant, again, you need a full spectrum leaf extract. It's very important, not an isolate, but the full spectrum leaf. That's called artemisinin forte. It uses iron to selectively destroy cancer cells and parasites. It's not the only mechanism of action. It has several mechanisms of action. But one of the most profound is that Chinese wormwood, again, not Western wormwood. There's Artemisia absinthium or absinthe wormwood, or just absinthe for short, which means without sweetness. It's the most bitter herb in the world, bitter tasting herb in the world. This is the Chinese wormwood, the Artemisia annua. This is what won a Nobel Prize in 2015. The same year, the Nobel Prize was awarded to ivermectin, which has been carefully suppressed by the medical mafia. Because if you take Chinese wormwood, and some people use ivermectin, which is also very safe, 5 billion human doses roughly to date. That's a lot. Very safe. That you wouldn't need a lot of the ultra expensive cancer drugs. Ivermectin costs pennies per pill. Chinese wormwood, a little more than that, but it's not expensive at all. And my opinion, I don't have any data to support this, but just having treated thousands of patients for 36 years, we wouldn't need many, if not most, of the current cancer drugs and treatments in general if there was broad use of this herb. And possibly ivermectin. I can't really comment on that, haven't used it. I'm not a physician, so I don't prescribe it. Some states like Texas are making it over the counter, which is a wonderful thing. I mean, wow. So, now you've got 2 of the best cancer agents on earth available over the counter without a prescription. That's awesome. So, and this herb can be used preventatively. That's what I do. You only take it for, the way I use it personally is 4 days on, 10 days off, or 5 days on, 9 days off. So you're not taking it continuously. It's not a continuous herb. But grab these book chapters with that QR code, and you'll be very pleased because you'll learn a lot about this wonderful herb. Okay, so that's that. And then, so we talked about zinc. The other thing I wanted to mention was the Beamer. This is an incredibly effective device. It's the best of the PEMF by far, best home care medical device in the world. There's 74 studies I found so far. Typical devices have 0. So this was 2 papers, peer-reviewed, journal articles on combining the BEMER with radiation therapy. Now, my opinion is because this mechanism enhanced reactive oxygen species formation is a shared mechanism with most chemotherapy, right? You need singlet oxygen, free radicals, reactive oxygen species, singlet oxygen. You need that to prevent cancer. That my opinion is, and we don't have data on this, but my opinion is this thing was so helpful, this home care device, and just go to this webpage, michaelgaeta.com/PEMF for all the details. This optimized microcirculation, quote, we show significant changes in distinct intermediates of glycolysis and tricarbolic acid, or TCA, pathways, and enhanced cancer cell radiosensitization associated with increased DNA double-strand break numbers and higher levels of ROS upon BEMER treatment relative to controls, meaning they have better outcomes with radiation therapy. And they told you why. And this is a huge deal because the mechanisms they discovered are very similar to chemotherapy. So if you use the BEMER every day, you, again, theoretically, based on this data, will have way better cancer resistance because by optimizing microcirculation, you'll get better ROS, which is part of apoptosis. And by the way, better mitochondrial function because the mitochondria depend for aerobic respiration. They depend on oxygen. And this switch to glycolysis is common. That's the Warburg effect of cancer. Cancer changes its cellular metabolism and energy production to a much more primitive type of energy production, more akin to a plant. And so the BEMER, by optimizing microcirculation, you get better ROS, meaning better apoptosis, meaning better cancer resistance. And if you're doing radiation therapy, you'll get better outcomes based on this paper. And I would posit, I would opine that you're going to get better chemo outcomes as well if you're doing chemotherapy, which I would not do if it was me, unless it was a very, very narrow set of cancers where there's clear demonstrated benefit, like testicular cancer, right? Chemotherapy for testicular cancer has a 95% cure rate. It's very effective. But that's certainly, big time, majorly, the exception, not the rule. Most chemotherapy does nothing good and a lot of bad in most patients. They even admitted this in an industry meeting at Roche. A chiropractor who came to one of my seminars used to be a drug rep for, at the time, Hoffman LaRoche. And they had an in-house company sales meeting. So they had the head of sales, the vice president of sales, doing there were thousands of people, thousands of drug reps in the room for this company meeting. It wasn't public, but she was there, and she became a chiropractor. Shortly after this, she quit and being a drug rep because as she said, I wanted to help people. I'm not helping people with being a drug rep. I'm making money, and often big money, but not helping people. That wasn't okay with her. So she became a chiropractor and then immediately started helping people. But anyway, she said, and she was there, the vice president, one of the vice presidents at Roche got up and said, she said, and he said, quote, most of the drugs we make do not work in most patients. That's an astounding statement. Based on the evidence they had, most drugs do not help most patients. And he went on to say, chemotherapy drugs are among the least effective we produce. And again, this is a quote. At best, chemotherapy drugs benefit the patient at most, at best, 25% of the time. A placebo will be beneficial 30 to 40% of the time. So the best outcomes with chemotherapy in general are less than a placebo, where you could tell the patient, hey, here's some oral chemotherapy, and give them a sugar pill or an inert tablet. Tell them it's chemo, and it will be more effective than the actual chemotherapy, which costs, $10,000 a month in many cases, sometimes more. It's incredibly profitable stuff. So anyway, get a Beamer. I'm sitting on my B pad right now, as I do at my desk all day. This is the seat cushion that optimizes your circulation, right? Remember, sitting is the new smoking. You can ameliorate a lot of that by having a Beamer, maintaining blood flow and microcirculation while you're sitting. But anyway, if you want to prevent cancer, again, Beamer doesn't prevent cancer, it doesn't treat, prevent, or cure any disease, but it does improve blood flow. And Warburg even pointed out, you've got to have robust blood flow to have good cancer resistance. So it's inexpensive. There's now several credit cards with 21 months interest-free, meaning your monthly payment's about $300 a month for 21 months with no interest, roughly. And, most people can do that. It's not, you have to pay, everything at once. And it's not that expensive compared to other devices that have no research. This one has 74 studies. So the other one was wild. This was another paper. This was published in Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity. Another Beamer study. This was published another peer-reviewed journal. Go to michaelgated.com/PEMF. Beamer therapy, quote, possesses great potential in radiosensitization. The Beamer system facilitates an increase in blood vessel and microcirculation to improve organ blood flow. And one of the leading models of aging is that aging is impaired microcirculation. If you can maintain great blood flow through your life, you're going to age beautifully, and in many cases reverse age, because most folks over 40 have impaired circulation. So you can actually reverse age by optimizing blood flow, as they said here in this paper published in Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity. The Beamer system facilitates an increase in blood vessel and microcirculation to improve organ blood flow, nutrient supply, which means your great organic food will work better, and your great supplements and herbs will work better, and detox, which is in part removal of waste, removal of metabolites. Beamer treatment, again, how many studies on cancer or anything else are done with other PEMF style devices? 0. It's the only evidence-based device on the planet. And it costs 1/5 as much as other devices with no research on it, using that exact device. Beamer treatment showed an obvious radiosensitizing effect. Same mechanism, deriving a high reactive oxygen species level. That's how you prevent cancer. And that's how you treat cancer. That's how chemotherapy and radiation work most of the time, is generating lots of free radicals. And cancer cells don't like oxygen. They hate oxygen. They vascularize themselves not for the oxygen. They have to tolerate the extra oxygen they get with neoangiogenesis. They are not vascularizing to get more oxygen. They hate the oxygen because the oxygen means the cells can protect themselves against cancerous changes or self-destruct if they can't be salvaged from optimized mitochondria. So you need, this is why taking synthetic antioxidant supplements interferes with oxidation and ROS and free radicals, which you need to resist cancer. So to prevent cancer, you need high ROS, high free radicals, high reactive oxygen species. And the BEMER helps that happen, not by forcing anything to happen, just by optimizing blood flow. So the BEMER treatment showed an obvious radiosensitizing effect in a time-dependent manner by deriving a high reactive oxygen species level and increasing the number of DNA double-strand breaks in the cancer cells. That's partly how you kill cancer. And they found the BEMER system shows great potential in personalized ROS modulation at a large scale in future combination, in other words, BEMER plus radiation therapy. Wow. That's pretty awesome. So this is another, simple thing. Now, we don't have data on other things, but we have enough data with these two papers to surmise that the BEMER will improve cancer resistance in everyone, potentially. There's a mechanism. There's no evidence, but we have a very clear mechanistic explanation, which is better blood flow, better oxygen, better mitochondria, better nutrition, better detox, better lymphatic circulation, better lymphatic drainage, better nitric oxide production, better glycocalyx health in the endothelium, in the lining, well, actually the lining of the endothelium. And so we have a plausible mechanism for possibly increasing cancer resistance. So just as a reminder, just go to this page, and it's an educational page, but also information on how to obtain the device for yourself or a loved one. I've had lots of patients buy these units. They're not that expensive for other people, family members. So here is the PEMF page, which it doesn't mention the BEMER by name, but that's what it's about. That's an FDA thing. And we do weekly classes. I teach a monthly class on Thursdays. We have we wrote a 14-lesson email course, online library, research compilation. It's actually 74 studies. We have an educational page for non-practitioners and practitioners. We have a medical fact sheet. Here's all of what it does: improving muscle performance, athletic muscle performance, strength conditioning, recovery, stress, relaxation and rest, rejuvenation, regeneration, cellular oxygen delivery. That's what Warburg said. That's how you prevent cancer. You also have to have good blood. So RBC to 5 at least, hemoglobin to 15 at least, hematocrit to 42 at least. And there are upper limits too. And then removing CO2, right? And waste and toxins, and stuff that needs to go away. Better systemic circulation and local blood flow, and just overall better vitality, well-being, energy, abundance, enhanced longevity. That's pretty remarkable. So here's how you get one. Just get a hold of Cynthia. She's my colleague here at the school and clinic. And it's the only FDA Class 2 cleared home medical device. Yeah, so get a hold of Cynthia. There's her number, 713-410-5827. You can also email her at cynthia@cynthiazoll.com, and she'll help you get your first or additional devices or accessories like the B-Sit. I think it's really cool, and all of that. So there's that. Another practical home thing for the whole family. And literally it's 8 minutes. Twice a day, 8 minutes. So nobody has compliance issues with this device. It's just easy to use. 8 minutes twice a day. Other devices, it's an hour. You have to lay on a mat for an hour. Like, who has time for that? I had a colleague, I had a mat she didn't use because you had to lay on it for an hour. And she said, I didn't feel any better once I got off the mat. I felt a little better on the mat. Once I got off the mat, no benefit, no different. Didn't make a difference. So anyway, that is another simple home care thing. Finally, last topic today. Guess it worked out not having the scheduled guest. We had a lot to talk about. Hope it's been helpful. So that is that's that. So here is foods that increase your risk of cancer. So sugar, GMO, Roundup, grain-fed beef, pasteurized dairy, white flour, all the seed oils, which are basically vegetable oils. And then here is a very important list of foods that decrease your risk of cancer. Cruciferous vegetables. We have like dozens of studies on this. In fact, hey, let's just take a look. It's a live show. Why not? Let's look at something together. Just going to pop into good old Google Scholar. Evil company, but a great search tool. So let's just see. Cruciferous vegetables. Oh, there it is. It just popped right up. The second thing, cruciferous vegetables and cancer. Look at that. I'll take the citations out. 40,000 articles, most of them studies, on cruciferous vegetables and cancer. It's very reliable. Very reliable. Now, you might say, oh, well, those are just single studies. Okay, smarty pants. Let's look at just the review articles, which are the literature review articles. And look at that. That's insane. That's better than almost any pharmaceutical, if not all pharmaceuticals you'll ever encounter. You almost never have 8,700 studies, review articles, systematic reviews on pharma drugs. So this is a ridiculously strong evidence base. And I'll give you the link so you can just click on it and read the research yourself. This is not theoretical at all. Not theoretical. This is one of the most validated cancer resistance interventions in existence. Looks like we had a question. Are you familiar with the Wave Watch healing of sound frequencies? I'm not familiar with that. It's not a beamer, so we know it doesn't have an evidence base like that. But it could be helpful. Sound frequencies, you know, it sounds cool. But I don't know what a Wave Watch is, so sorry. There's so many of these devices. Again, it's not the power output that matters. It's the specific signal. So that's the basic idea. So yeah, looks like it's a watch that emits certain frequencies. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. That would be an adjunct to the beamer. The beamer is, you know, obviously the most important thing. But as an adjunct to that, something you could just wear. Okay, cool. That's great. So I think that, again, I've never seen one before or used it, but it looks cool, and it might be a good thing. Certainly safe to try. Use your Beamer 8 minutes twice a day, and then add this thing on if you want. Why not? It may help. Looks cool. So that's perfectly fine as an extra thing. All right, so cruciferous vegetables, green tea. One paper had the green tea group had half the cancer, 50% reduction in cancer risk with daily green tea consumption. Garlic, olive oil, turmeric, fruit, especially berries, organic foods, omega-3, sulfur-rich foods supporting sulfation and the production of cholesterol sulfate, and cholesterol-rich foods. We have very good data that low cholesterol, meaning in this one big study, below 230, increases cancer risk a lot. LDL below 130, increasing cancer risk, suggested in this big study, came out of Europe. So you should never really have total cholesterol below 200 for sure. Higher is better. And LDL at least 100, above 130 is better. So plenty of fish, plenty of sulfur-rich foods like garlic, onions, eggs. You've got to support that sulfation pathway for detox and the production of cholesterol sulfate, which is highly cytoprotective or cell protective. So some great suggestions there as well. And if you don't know what a cruciferous vegetable is, got you covered. Here they are. Here is most of the cruciferous vegetables. Now, what I recommend to patients who are concerned about cancer resistance and optimizing cancer resistance, what I suggest to them, and again, all I do is make suggestions all day. I suggest you decide, is eat one of these a day, whatever you want. Broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, arugula, daikon, mustard greens, kohlrabi, rutabaga, cabbage, radish, watercress, collard greens, all these great stuff. Eat at least one of your choice per day. If it's fermented, it's even better. You get a book called Wild Fermentation from author's name is Katz, K-A-T-Z. So that's another very practical thing to increase cancer resistance as cruciferous vegetables. All right, so that's that. And then in terms of assessing factors that will influence cancer risk, there's a couple of things I want to close with. And here they are. I'm going to give you the page. Oh, they're doing trials on that thing. Great. Awesome. So last bit is just going to be to point out a couple of things and also courses. So the most important course, if you have any interest in cancer prevention and resistance and want to stay very up to date on the published research, you go to cancercourse.com, cancercourse.com, which will take you to this page that's in the chat. But you can literally just type in cancercourse.com and it'll get you to what I believe is the most awesome learning program. It's interactive, it's online. We do live monthly classes. This course is amazing. And multiple faculty, 8 faculty, plus me is 9. So 9 faculty in the recorded curriculum. And live, interactive, ask whatever you want about cancer, monthly classes. This is a great course. We've been running this course for about 8 years, and we've had just tremendous, great reviews. And it's super inexpensive. You can even make it even cheaper with your MWM10 discount code. But please take this course if you want to optimize cancer resistance for yourself, your family, your patients, and know exactly how to support patients who are doing chemotherapy, who are doing radiation. Guess what? If you know what you're doing in this area, you can actually have better outcomes with chemotherapy. for example. Better outcomes and radiation if you know this stuff. So my patients have vastly superior outcomes and fewer side effects, typically, when they're on radiation or chemotherapy. But again, that's the support part. So cancer support, how do you support a cancer patient? But then the bigger part of the course is prevention. How do you prevent cancer? Cancer is genetic 5-10% of the time. 90-95% of all cancer is lifestyle. So we mentioned some of the most important things today. There's another, I don't know, dozens of other recommendations. But you'll learn all that in this course, cancercourse.com. Also, if you scooch over to our course page at michaelgaeta.com/watch, again, just a reminder, our fertility course starts Wednesday with Dr. Rhodes, and our cardiovascular course is in session. You can join us. And here's our new podcast page with a snazzy new image here with some of our past guests. And it's awesome. But here's our, where'd it go? Yeah, here's the course page. And you'll find all of our courses here. Let me copy this over to the watch page as well, so you can see it. And let's see, there's that and that. Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So last couple of comments here. The courses that relate to what we talked about today, and again, use your MWM discount. Most certainly our fertility course for folks who've had a COVID shot, don't want to have miscarriage or infertility, and just have a healthy pregnancy. That's very helpful. Also, coming up, I'm going to be talking about cancer as one of the topics in Herbal Summer School. Also, we have an EMF course coming up with Charlotte and myself. That's going to be amazing. Gut health and fermented foods with Monica Corrado. And then other courses that relate to what we talked about today include the biology of cancer. That's a great course with 4 faculty. Also, we have other courses that relate to the COVID shots, the murder weapon. So COVID vaccinosis is huge. That's like a 50-hour course, very inexpensive, from Pamela Richardson and myself. That's awesome. And we also have preventing COVID carnage, COVID injection carnage with me. That's a great course. Omega-3, very related to cancer, so you want to get that sorted out. And then you'll also see in another cancer-related thing is annual detoxification. That's our transformational detoxification self-guided cleanse in great detail. And then we have our vaccine courses, one of which is free, Vaccines and Choice. And then finally, in our herbal schools, you'll find cancer topics. And we actually have a school within a school, which I'll give you the link for, our herbal school page. As you know, kind of into herbs. And we have 10 courses on herbal therapy, which are just superb. So you'll see that there. Finally, wanted to just point out what you'll find in our store that would relate to what we talked about today. Here's how you can order your standard process and MediHerb supplements right here at the top. And then if you scooch down, this is one of the most important herbs for cancer resistance and cardiovascular health and anxiety and sleep and peace of mind and microcirculation, which is Don Shen. What a wonderful herb. We've got a course on that. but you've got like a mini course just right here with the studies and the video. And I take 3 a day. That's what I recommend you do. Preventatively, just take 3 a day. And hey, let's just do a peek. Look at this. Watch this. Google Scholar again, Salvia miltiorhiza, and cancer. Let's just add that thing here. Cancer, there it is. And we'll take out the citations. Look at that. With this one herb, more than 26,000 studies and articles on this herb just related to cancer. That's astounding. And if you want to look at the top level research, it's the review articles and meta-analyses. 6,500 review articles and meta-analyses just on this herb, just on cancer. So that's astounding. And then if you look at total studies, you see that almost half of them, so 58,000 papers on this herb and studies, almost half are on cancer. That's how important this herb is for cancer. Incredibly important. And it's very inexpensive. Preventative dose is less than 50 cents a day. Active treatment dose is 6. Preventative dose is 3. Active treatment dose for correcting something is less than $1 a day. It's very inexpensive. And people just feel better. They sleep better. They're less stressed. They're less anxious. They have better circulation. And their cardiovascular health improves. Cancer resistance improves. So many things improve. It's just awesome. And since we're here, Artemisia annua, that's in our store, 114,000 papers, twice as many papers as Donshen. That's incredible. And then review articles, 10,000 review papers on this one herb. So we'll go back to any type, and then we'll just put in cancer. It comes up right at the top of the list here. And look at this, 29,000 studies and articles just on this herb and cancer. That's amazing. And then you look at review articles, 6,000 review articles just on this one herb and cancer. That's incredible. So 2 of my favorites for increasing your cancer resistance, I take them all the time, just preventatively, just for wellness care. So you'll find all that in our store. It's very inexpensive. Herbs that you can use to increase cancer resistance, along all the other things we talked about. It's not the only thing. So take 3 Donshen a day. That's what I do. Take Chinese wormwood, 4 or 5 days every 2 weeks. That's what I do. Just 3 a day. That's all you need. And or you can go a week on, week off, or a week on, 2 weeks off. And then do the hair analysis. This is an essential thing. Check your zinc and all the other minerals and toxic elements too, like mercury and aluminum, once a year at least. Minimum is once a year. It's very inexpensive. You can get a complete diet plan or not, as you wish, but do this hair analysis every year, everybody, and everybody you know, once a year. It's the perfect complement for a blood test. And in my practice, I always do both. Blood is not sufficient. Hair is not sufficient. Both together is ideal. Then, other also related to cancer, it's right here, wheatgrass juice. One of the best things for a cancer patient is wheatgrass juice, fresh wheatgrass juice. And also for cancer prevention too. You can juice it at home, grow it and juice it at home, very inexpensive once you get set up with the juicer. Omega-3 status, absolutely incredible, essential for managing inflammation, which can drive cancer, and all of that. Here again is your Beamer info. Get the Beamer. It's very reasonable. It's not super expensive. And it works. We know it works because of the 74 published studies and 1 million users over 28 years in 44 countries, and why it's the only Class 2 cleared device. You've got a backup source for Chinese wormwood. Just click right there for Chinese wormwood. Let's see, what else is cancer related? Oh yeah, for sure. Get your mushrooms up. This is a really yummy way to eat medicinal mushrooms. By the way, daily mushroom consumption can reduce cancer risk in the literature up to 34%. We didn't get to that today. But daily mushrooms, I do a mushroom powder plus this guy, plus just eating mushrooms in the diet. You can reduce cancer risk 34%. That's insane. We just had the founder of Pluck Seasoning on. Get organ meats into your diet in a very tasty, simple way. Very, very helpful. Okay, so that's that. And you know, next week our Happy Birthday America show. Here's some great American companies. All American Clothing. I wear their stuff every day. Marty. Oh my God, these are two American moms. Give you natural organic products, typically at a price below what your local store pays for it. I don't know how they do that, but it's wholesale or better, typically, on stuff you're going to buy anyway, natural and organic products. And then American Giant, I wear their stuff regularly. American-made clothing, you get a discount. It's awesome. So you got some great sources. You know, again, support American companies. It's important. So that's that. We have done it, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here and hanging in there. We had a great show today. Thank you for the questions and engagement. That always makes it more fun. And look at this slate of guests. Actually, we just scheduled a couple I have to add. We've got an amazing slate of guests. Next week, our Happy Birthday America show with Dr. Lee Merritt and Matthew Dark and Heidi Ganahl, former Colorado candidate for governor. Her amazing daughter, Tori. Then we've got a couple of amazing vaccine experts, Ronald Owens and Julie Threet. We've got the amazing Dr. James Thorpe, another vaccine expert, Curtis Cost, and Richard Hirschman we got, folks. Just scheduled him last week. He is the mortician embalmer guy who has, and he's going to show you 6 to 18-inch clots pulled out of dead people who possibly were killed, murdered, as probably 20 million or more people have been by the clot shot, the murder weapon. Then we got Dr. Richard Bosshart, amazing. August 10th, we just confirmed a guest for that day. And then Dr. Isabella Wentz, one of our faculty, is going to be talking about irritable bowel syndrome. So we've got some amazing guests and also some guests just to schedule that just need to be slotted in there. So thanks, everybody. We've got a revised page. You can see a lot of our past shows more than ever here. And you just click on See Past Shows. And you'll see, 190 or so shows that are here. So if you missed a show, we got you covered. And so please take advantage of that. And then we've got a Spotify channel. So we've got not a lot, but we've got several shows, thanks to my son, on Spotify. And you can subscribe to our Spotify channel, which is pretty awesome. So lots of shows on Spotify that you can listen to, and also through our watch page. All right, well, thanks, everybody. Blessings to you and yours.